Right, so we're now recording. So thank you, everybody. We're up to 72. So I'm going to introduce the session. So for those who, just give me a wave if this is the first time you're doing this cook along with me. Okay, so we've got a few people. So, of course, Sami as well, but I'll introduce shortly the main person this evening. So for those of you who are new to this and don't know me, first of all, so my name's Raheel Mirza. I'm just a self-taught home cook, not a whizzy chef like Sami is, but self-taught at home. And I appeared on MasterChef in 2020. And since then, I've set up my own company called the Cookalong Company. And a big part of what I do is charity, fundraising, all that kind of stuff. And of course, since what happened, well, we know it's been happening for far longer than October the 7th, for 75 years, the occupation of Palestine. Nevertheless, it's been brought to our attention even more so since October the 7th, or so the media will have you believe. And I thought I need to do something, no matter how small, to try and raise some funds for our chosen charity.
You carry on then. Okay.
Thank you, Jim.
Oh, does everyone hear me okay still?
Raheel, I wonder if we need to mute people that when you're speaking.
Okay, yeah, sorry about that. So what I'll do is, as people join, I'll keep hitting the mute button. Apologies, that feels really rude, but it's the only way we can stop any background noise. So as I was saying, I just felt like I need to do something, no matter how small, to try and raise some funds for our chosen charity, which is Medical Aid for Palestinians, which we'll hear a little bit more about later on today. Believe it or not, we have raised just over £17,000 across 5 cook-along events. Well, this is the 5th. So 4 cook-along events, over £17,000, and that's rising. I'm going to update the target. I set the initial target at £2,500. We've smashed that. I'm going to revise that to 20,000, and let's see if we can get to that in the next few months. The journey started back in December, where actually we had 2 charities at the time. Well, one charity and one other organisation. So it was Palestine Solidarity Campaign and Medical Aid for Palestinians. That was back in December. On that particular event, we had Jeremy Corbyn and Ben Jamal, who came on to talk about their experiences of what's happening. We've had another person who I'm going to introduce shortly as well, who's been a constant throughout the event, who's the wonderful Sarah, who's from Medical Aid for Palestinians, who you'll be hearing from later on today. Then we went into January and we had Jeremy and Ben. We also were joined by Alexi Sale at the time. Some of you may know if you're from the UK. We then did the 3rd one. By the time we got to the 4th one, we were joined by the wonderful Curly Cooks of Croydon. So Dina and Nadia Sawala. I know Dina's on here today. Dina, I'll come in and say hello to you shortly as well. Thank you for joining again. That was being co-hosted with myself and Layla Ruas at the time. So that was really exciting. But fast track to today, and this is actually a bit of a pinch me moment, really. So today, I'm not going to be leading this. The session is going to be led by renowned Palestinian chef, food writer, author, Sami Tamimi, who's going to be teaching us how to cook an amazing dish. It sounds great. Hopefully you've all had a chance to prepare and you'll be able to create either a meat version or a vegetarian/vegan version this evening. We'll be going till about 7 o'clock, give or take, and about 6:30, I will bring in Sarah, as I say, who is from Medical Aid for Palestinians, who will be talking a little bit about where the funds go, how they're used, and not just now, but of course for the future as well, and a little bit maybe of an update from what's happening on the ground. I've put into the chat function the Just Giving page. Now, you've all kindly donated already by having purchased a ticket this evening for this event. So first of all, big thank you for that. If any of you would like to can as little or as much as you like, please feel free to follow that link to Just Giving. We've already had some amazing, generous donations leading up to this event. Then feel free to do so. You can do it anonymously. Thank you, Sarah. Sarah just put the link in again. You can do that anonymously. You can put a message on there, whatever you feel comfortable doing. So it's going to be a bit of a tag team between me and Sami today. When Sami's doing a little bit of cooking, I'll be fielding some of the questions if you've got any for Sami. But without further ado, let's introduce Sami to the session. So Sami, good evening. How are you?
Thank you very much for having me, first of all. And I wanted to first also thank everyone who joined tonight. especially for such a kind of really kind of heavy cause. But you know, we have to do our bit, and the money goes to such a good kind of cause that we as human, we just have to kind of give as much as we can and whenever we can, just to help. And as a Palestinian, it really kind of breaks my heart what's happening at the moment in Gaza and other part of Palestine. And it's been going on for the last 75 years. It's not just from the 7th of October. I lived it, I ran away from it, I keep going back to it. It's unbelievable what's happening there. And I've been talking about it for years and nobody was listening. It feels like nobody was listening. But actually now that all the atrocious things happened since October 7, the kind of, the balance kind of moved to the other side and people actually can see who's wrong and who's right. Unfortunately, it's beyond us. It's just too powerful. But, you know, we just need to keep holding, resilient, doing what we believe that it's really right for us, and just fight it and keep going. This is, you know, the only way to do it. With people like me, cooking is a very good way to connect with people, first of all, but also to message in everything that comes that relates to Palestinian, from, you know, the traditional dishes to their traditions, to their culture, to the food, farming, the connection to the land, everything that kind of comes with that helps people to understand what's happening there. I started the journey just before we published Palestine, which is my latest book, my last book, sorry. And Palestine was actually a way for me to talk about things that I've never discussed before. And through food, you can actually tell quite a lot of stories, but also I wanted to keep it real and talk about Palestinians and modern time Palestine and how Palestinians are actually living at the moment. Sorry, this is just oven. And I think the success of Palestine was surprising, but also quite humbling in a way, because I thought it's going to be a little bit too political, but actually people caught in that, and reading the stories of, you know, people, Palestinians that live under the occupation, and the way they deal with, you know, the daily life, it's really quite grim. But from the grimness of all of it, all the people that we featured are kind of somehow they are very positive, and a lot of them are entrepreneurs and wanted to do a different, but also they wanted to live their life as best as they can. So they're quite driven and they want to do things with their life. They're not just sitting and crying about what's happening, which is really, really kind of great to see and hear. And a lot of these stories are Palestine. Anyway, breathe in. Back to the cooking now. Thank you again for coming to join me. I'm gonna start by just talking slightly about the dish. It's a very sounds a bit elaborate, but it's really, really kind of a simple dish of minced meat. Minced meat is used quite a lot in the Middle East, and it's a way to feed many people with a little bit of meat, layered with a lot of vegetables and herbs and spices. And they're quite smart because, you know, they have a little bit of meat and they make such a big, elaborate kind of dishes with them. Kofta, we call it kofta bisiniya, but also kofta with bitinjan, which is aubergine. I'm using a mixture, half and half lamb and veal, or you can use also beef. You can also, if you don't like lamb, just use beef. I'm gonna start. I mentioned we mentioned to you that you need to prepare the aubergine in advance because they take about 25 minutes to cook. But before I go into that, the people that don't eat meat and want to do the portobello mushrooms, they need to you need to drizzle them in a bit of olive oil, do all the measurement for the kofta, all the spices, and then sprinkle some of these spices on the mushrooms after you sprinkle it with olive oil. And of course, you need to add a bit of salt and pepper. And then you can continue with the recipe as I'm going to show you. Okay. Now, if I'm running too fast, just raise your hand. Just say, can you just please slow down slightly so you can actually cook with me? I tend to also mumble a lot, so just kind of, if you don't understand what I'm saying, just kind of say, can you just say it again? Enjoy.
Sami, sorry, just to very quickly interrupt you. So some people may have prepared ahead of time, others may not have. So can you just talk us through the preparation of the aubergine, please? You were maybe going to just do that then, but just if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, no, of course. I kept one of them here, and I'm going to show you how to prepare them. So I have a peeler. You don't have to do this. I think it's just visually looks nice, and when you see that the top of the dish looks actually quite pleasing. So all I'm doing is just with the peeler, kind of peeling strips of the skin. I'm going from the top or from the bottom to the top, and you just want to leave the same kind of width of the skin on, and it kind of resembles a zebra. So like that. I'm gonna just chuck it here, remove the stalk and the end, and then it's just simply slice them.
We cannot see your workspace.
Sorry?
We cannot see your
Oh,
workspace.
you cannot see it.
Sami, your phone, yeah, I think your phone, so I've got your, hang on, let me switch the view, just bear with me. Where's your phone? Because you've got your phone on the counter, haven't you? So just bear with me, let me find where your phone is. There's that many people on here.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can quickly find that. Where is it? Okay.
I can see myself and I can see my counter.
I can't, what's the name? Is your phone called Sami phone, is it? Or Sami iPhone?
Yeah.
Okay, let me
Sarah says there are two
yes,
images.
here we go. I've got it. Let me spotlight that. How's that, everyone?
Brilliant, thank you.
Yes, brilliant.
You can
Great.
see my belly as well now, which is nice. So I was just saying that, you just kind of cut them into later. So they're cut into slices like that. And then I just tend to leave them like this, sprinkle them with a little bit of salt, and just leave them like that. And then just take a tea towel or just kitchen paper and just kind of tap them to dry them. And then I have a prepared tray here, which I just lined with some paper and drizzle olive oil. I'm using as a good Palestinian olive oil from zaytun. I start by drizzling olive oil on the paper. This is just a cheaty way to do it, and then salt on the paper as well. Black pepper. And then the slices of aubergine goes in like this. I'll just bring it here. And then all I'm doing now is just kind of moving them slightly, rotating, and then flipping them. So you use less oil because aubergine tend to soak quite a lot of the oil. And you basically oil both sides and season them at the same time. So that's a good trick. And in they go, 220 pan. They take about 22 to 25 minutes. And when they come out, they should look hopefully like this. So they cook very, very soft and quite golden. Everybody can see that?
Yeah,
Yes,
we can see
thank you.
that. Great. Thank you, Sami.
Okay, cool. So tomatoes, the recipe said plum tomatoes, but unfortunately the plum tomatoes that I looked for, they were not really nice. So I bought these tomatoes, but it doesn't matter. I mean, you can use any nice ripe tomatoes you can find. Obviously, it's not the season for them, but we just buy the best we can. And these, I'm just slicing again into about 1/2 centimeter slices like this. And then just kind of, so like this. And we have 12 patties, so you need 12 slices. If you have extra, I just tend to put it kind of in between. It's quite nice to eat. So that's 10. And you can discard the ends. We're not going to use them. They're quite, most of it is just skin. Like that. I'm going to take this tray back and just move the aubergine slightly and put the tomatoes next to them. And just leave them aside for now. Let me just clean this one quickly. It's my friend Helen kindly allowed us to do a session in her kitchen because my kitchen is in the middle of renovation. And I spent probably 1/2 hour just kind of looking for things around. I did find everything, so it's good. We're gonna do now the tomato sauce.
I decided to turn it on so that we could be like with everybody else. But
Say again. Sorry, I didn't hear that.
That's okay, Sami. I think maybe someone had unmuted by accident. But if anyone's got any questions, the best way is if you put it into the chat function. I'll keep answering those questions for you. So it's gas mark 6. And the tomatoes don't go into the aubergines, do they, Sami? They're just being cut and be left to one side. Is that right?
Correct.
Great.
Yeah, I just joined them to the aubergine, so they're in the same tray, but I'm leaving them aside. They are not cooked.
Fantastic. Thank you.
And this is a big onion, so I mean, I'm gonna use just half of it. So in the middle, we're doing the sauce now. So I'm chopping the onion finely.
And it's always interesting. Sorry, Sami, I'll just comment on what you're doing there. For those of you who are not only just joining, obviously, for the great cause that we're raising money for today, but also to learn some techniques, some dishes. You can see how Sami's expertly chopped that onion. Don't worry if you can't chop it as finely as that, obviously. However, if you saw, he left the root intact as he was cutting that. So that's a really good way of making sure you got something to hold on to whilst you're cutting so it doesn't slide all over the place. That looks great.
Yeah.
Thanks, Sami.
Yeah, all you need is just end up with the kind of end of the onion, and this is just a tough layer of the onion that I couldn't put in, so I'm just discarding this.
Great.
So, and I need some garlic. These cloves are quite big. I'm just trimming the hard bit of them because I don't want it in the food. And it says 6, but actually these are huge, so we're using 4 of them. I'm gonna use my trusted garlic crusher to crush them on the same board. If you don't have a crusher, just get one. They are very useful. It saves you a lot of time. Otherwise, you're gonna have to slice them and then add salt to them and mince them really fine. So the garlic is here, and I have a pan here. It's quite big, deep. Let's hope that this is gonna work. It's working. Can you see the pan? Oh,
Not quite, Sami, but yeah, that's better. We can't quite see inside, but we can certainly see it. That's good.
I'll grab it a few times and bring it in front of the camera.
Perfect. Thank you.
It's on kind of high. I'm adding a bit of oil in here. Just let it heat up slightly, and then the onion goes in. I need a wooden spoon. It will take just a minute, and then it starts to sizzle. And I tend to add just a bit of salt, like just a pinch with the onion. It helps also cooking them. They sweat while they're sweating, if you know what I mean. And now the heat is quite high, so you need to turn it down to like a low medium, otherwise the onion will burn. The idea is that you cook them so they're cooked through and have some color. If it's too high, they burn really quickly. Okay. So with the garlic is here. I have tin tomato chopped and tomato paste for that. While this is cooking, I'm just gonna slice the green chili, which goes on top of the tomatoes. You can do it in an angle like this, on an angle, or you can just do them thinly sliced, whatever you feel comfortable doing. So I think if you don't like spicy, you can just remove some of the seeds. It's only a bit of chili. I don't think it will be that spicy just to add the seed as well. And you can always just kind of remove them and put them on the side.
Sami, whilst we're just waiting for the onions, if I may just ask, so if anyone's got any questions for Sami, I'm sure we won't be able to get through all of them, but if you have got any questions, if you pop them into the chat function, then what I'll do is I'll go through and I'll ask Sami the odd question as we're going along when we've got a bit of downtime, when things like the onions are frying and things like that. So if there's any questions, then just pop it into the chat and then I'll ask Sami. But Sami, I've got a question for you first of all.
Yes.
This particular dish then, is this kind of one of your personal favorites? Is that why you chose it, or does it just represent Palestinian cuisine? Is that the reason for it?
Yeah, it's all of it together, really. I mean, I love eating it. I think it's a good dish to share with others, particularly tonight, which is Saturday night, and it's a family kind of share. We tend to put all the food in the middle of the table, and people help themselves. We don't have like a starter and a main and a dessert. We tend to put everything on the table, and people kind of just grab. We tend to also put food in people, if they're guests, we put food in their plate just to make sure that they are well fed. It's also a good way to, use not fancy ingredients. I mean, it's a bit of mince, spices, herbs, and aubergine and tomato, which, they're quite widely available, but the end result is really, really wonderful. My onions are getting there, you can see now.
Certainly. There was just another couple of questions, Sami, just about the oil. So someone's saying if they don't have olive oil, maybe it's a little bit pricey. Is there anything else they can use as an alternative?
You can use whatever oil you like. I mean, I tend to use 4 oils actually. Good olive oil for salads and dressings and drizzling on top of food. Cooking olive oil, which I normally get from Greece. And you don't have to go for really, really expensive brands. And for frying, I use peanut oil or sunflower oil. But you don't have to use olive oil. And olive oil kind of range. Supermarkets tend to be quite expensive when it comes to olive oil. So if you have a Middle Eastern or Turkish local store, they tend to have it for much cheaper. So it's kind of worth trying.
Excellent.
And sorry, one more thing. Don't go for the cooking olive oil. Don't go for virgin olive oil. Just olive oil. It's good enough.
Excellent. Thank you for that. Sorry, Sami, one more question. Someone was asking about the mushrooms. Do they need to do anything to prep that? I think you mentioned something earlier.
Yeah, I mean, just remove the stalk, drizzle them with olive oil, prepare the spices for the kofta, which are cinnamon, allspice, chili flakes, and nutmeg, and season them with some of the spice mix and a bit of salt, and they are ready to go.
Great, thank you.
Yeah. I'm gonna add now here the garlic that I crushed and a bit of tomato paste. And here, I'm just going to show you what that is. And just give it a minute, just to mix quickly. And I'm doing this just to cook the garlic slightly, so the sauce doesn't feel like raw garlic. And in I go with the tomatoes. And I always wash the tin and use it with water for the sauce. So like that, and just kind of swirl it around and add it to the sauce. It's about half a cup of water. I'm adding now salt, essential, and a bit of black pepper. I don't tend to use ready ground black pepper. I think it's never fresh and it doesn't taste like black pepper. And most of the time it's so powdery that you just kind of end up with a lot of black stuff in your sauces or the food. I'm gonna add a little bit, just a pinch of sugar here, just to cut the acidity a bit, and dried mint, which is like that. Bring it to a boil, just stir it, and then reduce the heat and let it cook until it thickens. And while this is cooking, I'm gonna show you how to do the tomato, the meat.
Okay, so Sami, just before you go on to that, because obviously we've got different people at different levels sort of ability here. So can we just recap then? So what we've got in that tomato sauce, please, just one time.
Yeah, I started by chopping half an onion quite finely, and then a bit of olive oil, 2 tablespoons I added into the pan. You saute the onion until it's soft and slightly colored, about 5 to 6 minutes, and then I added 6 cloves of garlic. I mean, I added 4 because mine are quite big. Crushed, a tablespoon of tomato paste, and you just cook that for a minute or 2, just to cook the garlic slightly, and then I've added the tin tomatoes that are chopped, a pinch of sugar, salt, pepper, and dried mint. And then you bring it to a boil and just reduce the heat to kind of medium low and just let it bubble up. And it looks like this, but it's not cooked yet. So there's still way to go. But in the meantime, I can do also the meat mix.
That's great. Thank you, Sami. Yeah, let's move on then. That's wonderful.
Maybe we can have a couple of questions until people kind of catch up with me.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. I can't see any questions that have come through just yet. The only questions were about the oil and the mushrooms, which you've already answered. If anyone else has any questions, then it's a great opportunity. You may not get Sami like this again as a captive in Helen's kitchen to answer your questions.
Come on, guys, ask anything you want. Personal, political, cooking tips, anything. Don't ask me what's my favorite restaurant in London. This is a tough one. Shall I crack on the meat?
Yeah, let's do it. If there's any questions come through, I'll fire them at you, Sami, if that's all right.
Okay, cool. I have the meat here. I went to my butcher. I don't buy meat from the supermarket because it's full of stuff that I don't want to eat. And this is a kilo, so I'm not going to use all of it. It's supposed to be 700 grams in total. And in a big bowl, just keep an eye on the tomato paste so you don't kind of get them burned or anything like this. Just kind of stir it from time to time. And I have a grater here. The second half of the onion, I'm gonna grate in here. And do it until you can't grate anymore. And just watch your fingers. I mean, it's very useful if you want to wear a glove, like a disposal or like a washing glove. It protects your hands. And I'll just keep going. This is the layers that I can't do, so I'm just gonna chuck them and just keep going.
I have to say, Sami, this was the one point, because I grated my onions earlier when I was absolutely crying into the bowl at the same time. Grating onions is an easy job.
You see, I don't cry from onion.
Oh, I'm terrible.
There's something, I think, over the years from chopping and grating so many onions over the years, I got somehow immune to them. I can feel it, I can smell it, but I don't cry from it.
That's very lucky.
It's strange. One tomato, I'm just gonna cut in half. So, like that. And then again, you do the same thing, cut down, and the skin will protect your hand as well. And just go. You can do it fast, you can do it slow. But you know, the most important thing is to grate most of the pulp in, and then you end up with just kind of a skin like that, which you can just throw away.
Can you use the skin if you want to, Sami, or would you recommend definitely getting rid of it?
It gets a bit tough because it's a patty, so
Yeah.
you don't want to have it, but it's not gonna harm, you can eat it, it's fine. I just the idea of grating a tomato in the meat, it's to first of all flavor the meat. It gives it a moisture, but also makes the meat slightly tender. So the acidity and the sugar in the tomatoes helps with that. Just kind of tapping. And one garlic. The recipe said two, which is you should do, but these are massive garlic cloves. So I'm just gonna crush it here into the bowl.
Good afternoon. I joined a little bit late. I messed up the time zones, GMT and London. It's daylight saving time.
Oh, hello.
Can you do a quick recap on what we've done so far, please?
Of course. Are you doing the meat?
Yes, please. Yes, indeed. Thank you.
So we started by doing the aubergines, which the second batch is actually cooked. Peel them into like a zebra, which is like straps one lengthways, and then put them
Okay.
in a tray with paper. I drizzled some of the olive oil on the tray, salt and pepper, and then you add the slices of aubergine, and then I flip them to kind of season them and oil them from both sides, and they look like that. They take about 20 to 25 minutes, 220. But
Okay.
I don't know that in another temperature, so
Thank you.
I'm gonna just lower the heat now.
220 Celsius, correct?
Yeah.
Yep. Perfect.
And then after that, I did the sauce, which is bubbling here. 1 onion chopped finely. You cook it in 2 tablespoons of olive oil. And I added 6 cloves of garlic crushed, 1 tablespoon of tomato paste. And then we added a tin of chopped tomatoes, a bit of water, which is about half a cup, dried mint, salt and pepper, and a pinch of sugar. That's it. And it's been bubbling since. It will be ready in a couple of minutes. The meat, I was just saying that you can use lamb and beef. I'm using lamb and veal. You can also do it with beef or just lamb. Just it need to be slightly fatty. This is kind of so they don't dry out. I grated 1 onion or half an onion because mine was massive. 1 tomato, 2 cloves of garlic, and that's all for now.
Very excellent. Thank you very much.
Okay.
I'll catch up soon.
Catch up with us.
Yes, we'll do.
Okay, let's clean in here quickly. And the sauce is
Sorry, Sami, there was just a question. Yes, the dried mint needs to go into the tomato sauce, everyone.
yeah. And I need some parsley for the meatballs. Quite a bit. Just gonna organize it in a bunch. Until you open the bunch, you don't know what you're gonna get. There's quite a lot of stalks, so okay. These we can throw away.
Sami, whilst you're just chopping the parsley, can I ask you a couple of the questions people have put in here?
Yes, sure.
So question was, they've made twice as much meat mixture. Is it okay to freeze?
You can shape them and freeze them, definitely. And if you want to reuse them, put them in the fridge. Don't leave them outside because it's minced meat. It's quite dangerous with bacteria. And then continue the recipe as it is, or you can barbecue them if you want.
Great. And then someone's saying, what is there a carb you would recommend with this? Rice or flatbread or anything?
I like it with bread, but you can eat it with rice, with couscous, quinoa, potatoes. You can eat it with hummus and bread. So, you know, there's quite a lot of options.
Really versatile. And also, is there any Palestinian dip that would best complement? And you mentioned hummus there, so.
Shatta, which is a fermented chili sauce. I add it on everything. You can serve this dish with a dollop of tahini mixed with yogurt and a bit of lemon, which is really lovely. Or maybe like a yogurt and cucumber mint, which is a bit like tzatziki.
What was that dip you mentioned that you really like?
Shatta. Shatta is a fermented chili sauce.
Ooh, that sounds nice.
Yeah, there's a good recipe in Palestine for it.
Great.
I'm taking off the tomato sauce of the heat and I'm gonna leave it here on the side. Switch off. And back to the parsley. I'm just cutting off kind of some of the stalks because we don't want them. But in the Middle East, we tend to use most of the parsley, so we don't kind of waste a lot of it. And I start with a bunch. I mean, let's holding it like that and just kind of have a good grip on it and just kind of do this. I'm doing it slowly here. The thinnest you can while I'm holding the bunch behind the knife. So you can do it this way, you can do it this way. You can also do it with a small knife if you don't feel confident. The important thing is that you don't go over again and again and again on the parsley because it bruises and also it gets a bit nasty, kind of dark, and it affects the flavor as well. So I'm doing it now slightly faster.
By the way, Sami, everyone applauding and really recommending the Palestine book, saying how it's one of the best, if not the best, Middle Eastern cookery book. So you've got some avid fans for that book there.
Thank you very much. It always, I'm always like, oh, I don't know what to say. It's like, all I can say is just thank you very much. And I'm happy that people really like the book because from here and from people, it's a really kind of important cookbook. And people really like the recipes, but also the stories and the background kind of history behind it. So parsley goes in.
Did you add any tomato puree into the kofta yet, as per the recipe?
Not yet.
Not yet. Great.
I will. It's a good thing that you remind me, actually. So that the parsley in, and while we're talking about the tomato paste, I'm just adding it now. And you don't have to add the tomato paste. I think most of the year, like I said earlier, tomatoes are not very nice, and adding tomato paste into the mix actually give it a bit of more tomatoey kind of flavor. Salt. I like a bit more. Pepper. Quite a bit. And then cinnamon. Some of you would probably have baharat mix for meat. Use that instead of all these spices and just add a bit of chili instead. But if you don't have it, just follow the recipe. Allspice. Look how cute is this. This is my little kind of, sometimes I use it also for the garlic, but nutmeg. You can add also cardamom. You can add clove. Just be kind of careful with clove because it's very, very strong. Chili flakes, these are Aleppo, which I love because they are not as spicy, but they're full of flavor. They're slightly tart as well. So chili. And then I'm going in. And just mix it until you don't see kind of big lumps of the tomato and the onion. And I don't want to go too hard, but yeah, just kind of mix it until you think it's kind of well combined. Like this. I have a big piece of onion here. So yeah, that's a mix. It is safe if you want to use half of it as well. You can shape it into like a burger shape and just freeze them like that and then put them in a bag. Or sometimes I kind of put them in a zip bag, half of the mix, and then flatten it into the bag and just make sure that it's airtight. And you can just pop it out, put it in the fridge overnight, and then the next day it's ready to be used. I'm just gonna wash my hands quickly. Just cleaning quickly here. Okay. So this is really easy. I mean, it's quite a fun thing to do. We kind of need to do 12 of them. I'm not pressing or anything. I'm just shaping it into a patty. You see? If you like tahini, you can also add a bit of tahini into the mix, which is really nice. Just a kind of a good quality Middle Eastern tahini paste. It makes it a lot richer, but it's as delicious. Oh. It's amazing. It's still light outside, although it was a freezing cold day today in London. So windy. I took my dogs earlier for a walk. Even the dogs didn't like it. Here we go.
Sami, hi, it's Sarah. Because I can see that Raheel is busy making his meatballs, I thought I would jump in because there's quite a few questions about the mushrooms.
Yes.
Are people supposed to be doing anything with those yet, or are they just hanging fire until you tell them what to do?
Yeah, no, they just need to season them, oil them and season them like I mentioned. And then when I finish with that, they will be able to use them. like they are the meatballs or the patties.
Super. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. I think I have more than 12, but it doesn't matter. So I have enough slices of aubergine and tomato. But yeah, they look like this. I'm just gonna wash my hand quickly.
How much tahini and that can be added if I'm doing mushrooms? Thank you.
You can add about 3 to 4 tablespoons into the mix. It's about like 15 grams or so. We can move now to the next step, which an oven dish. And onions. I have the aubergine that I cooked earlier and the tomatoes. You just kind of fly aubergines into the bottom of the dish. That's 12, and I can squeeze one more. 13. And then simply with the mushrooms now go instead of the meatballs if you're using them. Just each slice get a burger. Like so. I'm gonna squeeze one more here. So they look like this now. And yeah. And we go with the tomatoes on top. And if it doesn't sit nicely, just kind of push down slightly, but like really gently. You don't want to kind of squash them. Like this. The last one. This is not in the recipe, but I just like to season the tomatoes with a bit of salt, just a tiny bit, because I'm sure they don't taste as nice as summer tomatoes. So it's clear up to now, guys.
Yeah, that's perfect, Sammy. I've just got one ingredient we haven't talked about yet. I may have missed it. The green chili. You had one green chili. Did you introduce that
And
already?
it's here, it's waiting.
Ah, great. Thank you.
We're coming back. We're coming back to it.
Perfect.
So tomato sauce now. Kind of dollops on each. And basically all you do, all I'm doing is just kind of dividing the sauce in between the patties, making sure that each has enough of the sauce on. Right in the last bits. Okay. So they look like that. And then we can put the chilies on. Each get one. Hopefully I have enough. And don't skip this part of the chili because it really adds to the flavor, first of all, and also it looks pretty. So here you go. Now I'm gonna cover it tightly with a foil. Like this, and into the oven, it's on 200 Celsius fan. And this is just to kind of cook it. I'm gonna remove the foil later on, so they get a little bit more color on the top. And then we're gonna garnish it with coriander, basil, and pine nuts. While it's cooking, I'm gonna fry some of these pine nuts. It's just taking a small saucepan, put it on. And before I add the pine nuts, I'm just gonna prepare a small plate with kitchen paper because they cook so quickly and you want to kind of take them out of the frying pan quickly so they don't burn. Like this. A bit of olive oil. About half a tablespoon. And you don't need to wait for the oil to heat, just add them in. And you shouldn't be leaving them. Just kind of keep an eye on them. Because they go from like slightly golden to total black in seconds. So I have a bit of basil for last later. Anybody have a question while we're waiting for the dish to be cooked?
I think there was one question, but someone's answered it, which was, did the tomato sauce go above or below the sliced tomatoes? So yeah, that went on top. That's great. It looks delicious, by the way, Sami. I'm going to be making this again for sure.
Okay, that's good. And I'm sure the one with the portobello mushroom is going to be as delicious. And you can also use other vegetables if you don't want mushrooms. Mushrooms are quite, I mean, these particular mushrooms are quite meaty, but I would also kind of use slices of, you need to roast them also before, like slices of celeriac or turnip or sweet. Cauliflower would be great as well as an alternative, but they need to be roasted because otherwise it takes too long for them to cook. So you kind of slice them, a bit of olive oil or normal oil, salt and pepper, and whack them into 200 for about half an hour before you start the recipe. I'm just picking some coriander here for the garnish. And
I do have a question.
yeah.
You mentioned that we could ask something personal, and I understand if you don't want to answer this.
Yeah.
How has what's happening in Palestine affected your relationship with Ottolenghi?
It did affect it, let's say that.
Yeah.
It did affect it.
Sorry to hear that, but
It's fine. It's just, you know, we there are two ways to go with something like this. It's just kind of sit and talk about it and argue about it. And we haven't got to a stage where, you know, you confront each other and just keeping quiet from each other, which is, it's
It
not.
is. It's very difficult because I too have friends who are on that borderline of, I mean, they're Jewish, and so they have this need to side with Israel.
Yeah.
And it's very hard not to have the discussion, and it's uncomfortable.
It's uncomfortable, and I have few Israeli friends because, you know, through work and with some of them I had big fights, and we did talk it through, and we didn't really get it to anywhere with
You
just
can't. It's
a lot of people, which I was personally quite disappointed because we were quite close, didn't want to talk about anything, which but also kind of didn't want to talk to me because I was quite vocal on social media about the situation.
I've got the same issue because I'm quite vocal.
And they just decided to ignore me, and some of them that actually did follow me on social media unfollowed me, which is it's, I don't know, like it's really it's not that complicated. You can just but it kind of also show you who's on your side and who's not, and it's very easy to take sides, but you need to also understand the other side. For me, it's not just kind of gray. There's a lot of black and white in it. And if you're not willing to listen to me or to the other side, then we are in deep shit. I'm sorry to say it in this way.
Yeah. Well, thanks for being so honest and sharing that with us.
Okay. So, we all, you know, we're all human and we all deal with things in our ways. I never wanted to talk about politics on social media, but I was actually in Jerusalem when that act happened. I was working and I was stranded there for a few days and managed to get out through going to Amman in Jordan. And unfortunately, I couldn't see my family. I was there for just 3 days, stranded in a hotel, which I was working in. And it was really, really sad because I felt really kind of bad not seeing my family, my siblings, but also scared about what's going to happen to them and leaving them behind. But the reality of being an Arab Palestinian after what happened, it was not a safe place to be.
Oh, no, I understand. Yeah.
I just had to get out, and 10 days later, I also had 5 nights at the Orange in Shoreditch, which was fully booked. So my head was like in all different places, but mainly about what happened back home and my family and what kind of conditions and situation they are into. But also thinking about all the people that booked to come and eat my food, which
Okay, thank you so much for the questions. That's a really good opportunity for Sami to talk a little bit more, I guess, emotively about the topic. So thank you for that. Just coming back to the recipe very briefly, if I may, Sami. So some people are just saying about the toasted pine nuts. So obviously they're on the plate now, they're waiting. How long would the kofta need to be in for?
At least half an hour, and then another 15 to 20 minutes without the cover.
Great. So just before we go any further, Sami, then, I wanted to just bring in Sarah, if I may, from Medical Aid for Palestinians, just so she can talk a little bit about what's happening on the ground, what some of the funds that we're raising for are helping with now and in the future. So Can we take 5 sort of minutes now? Is now convenient, Sami?
Can take more than 5 minutes. I'm having a glass of wine now.
Oh,
It really
great.
is.
Thank you. Okay,
What?
so I'm going to put Sami on mute briefly. I'll go on mute in a second, but I just want to introduce Sarah from Medical Aid for Palestinians. Sarah, as I say, has been a constant throughout the 5 Cookalongs we've done so far, and we converse outside of the Cookalongs just to sort of get an update on what's happening and what we might say to people the next time. And before I do hand over to Sarah, without sort of tempting fate, I know that it's a really emotive subject to talk about, and you know, I'm sure you won't hold it against her if she does get emotional whilst talking about some of the things that are happening. So please do support her. Sarah, over to you, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Raheel, and Sami, cheers. I am not cooking today, and actually, Raheel, I have not been at all of them because the last one I broke my arm the night before, and that's why I'm not in the kitchen.
Right.
I'm in my home office today. So very upset not to be cooking with you, but delighted to be with you all. If I speak robotically, it's because I don't want to cry. And for those of you that are not British, may not know, it's sort of illegal in this country to cry in public. So, you know, need to try and hold it together. But first and foremost, I'd really like to thank you all, whether you're the first time coming to one of Raheel's Cookalongs or you've been to many of them. It's amazing how much money you've raised for MAP so far, and I'm looking forward to telling you about the positive things that we're able to do with those funds, and also what we're planning to do with future funding. Sami, I'm a huge fan, so I am kind of a little disappointed not to be cooking your dish tonight, but what I had said to Raheel earlier was this is going to be the first thing I cook when I'm 2-armed again. So super excited about it. And I was giggling when you said about food being put in the middle of the table and if there's a guest serving them, because so many times on my trips to Palestine, I was served entire chickens onto my plate and was also told I would never get a husband unless I'm fatter. Which doesn't seem to be the case. I've tried getting bigger and still not married. So we did try, but really appreciate what you're doing today. Before I go any further, I do want to share some facts before I talk about the work that MAP are doing. And so if anyone is feeling a little vulnerable, or if maybe there is younger ears that, you know, you might not want to hear this, I would just say turn your volume down for the next sort of 3 minutes. I'm not going to talk for a long time, but to just at least give you that choice to choose what you do and don't want to hear. I've worked in the humanitarian sector for quite a while, and I really don't like statistics because it really dehumanizes. And in the Palestinian cause, the Palestinians are dehumanized more than most. But I do feel these statistics are actually quite important and quite powerful. So the last 6 months, the Israeli military bombardment has killed at least 34,049 Palestinians in Gaza and injured 76,901. And those numbers are from 4 hours ago. And I would imagine those have changed. And those numbers do not include bodies not yet recovered from under the rubble. And I feel, whilst I hate statistics and dehumanizing it, it's important to listen to that number and also to hear how many of those are women and children. Our amazing CEO at MAP, Melanie Ward, who many of you would have seen on the news or on social media, has just returned from Gaza. She, like me, has worked in Palestine for a number of years. We've seen a lot of things, and yet, and excuse me for looking at my notes because I want to get this correct. She was taken aback at the scale of devastation, the scale of displacement, the overcrowding, the lakes of raw sewage, and the fact that the fabric of life is being completely destroyed. And Melanie was not able to travel further than the middle area of Gaza. To date, we've managed to get £7 million worth of medical supplies into the Gaza Strip. We have 8 more trucks of medical supplies in the queue to go in, and 15 trucks of shelter items waiting to join the queue. I know on previous Cookalongs people have had questions about getting aid into Gaza. I won't go into the detail now, but by all means pop questions into the chat, and when Raheel, who is in charge of timing, feels it's appropriate, I'll do my best to answer those if I can. We are the only organisation that's fully operating in the north of Gaza. We've managed to support 60,000 people in recent weeks in 30 shelters with hygiene and dignity kits, clothes and toys for children. This work is led by one individual, a gentleman who I am proud to know and one of the bravest souls, called Mahmoud Shalabi. He didn't leave the north because his parents were too vulnerable to travel with him, and so he stayed there, and he continues to work fearlessly day in, day out to support his people. In the middle area in the south, we've set up eight health points which provide basic medical care and antenatal care. These are essentially what those of us in major cities in the UK would call pop-ups, but is able to provide that vital care that's needed for general day-to-day health, and particularly when hospitals are overwhelmed or not functioning anymore. This will soon increase to 12, and we expect that to continue to keep on increasing. Our 6th emergency medical team, which consists of international specialists in war zone surgery, nursing, medical care, and on this occasion also nutritionist specialists, is about to travel out to the Gaza Strip. We are unfortunately not able to get them safe passage to the north, so this will at present remain in the middle or southern areas of Gaza. And there's lots more that we're planning. We are constantly waiting for a ceasefire, and we've got multiple scenarios in place about what we can then do when a ceasefire comes into play, and what we're allowed to move and how we're able to move it. And then inshallah, when this actually ends, and how we can rebuild the health system and the dignity for Palestinians. We're extremely concerned about the ongoing planned land incursion into Rafah. And many of you may have seen that overnight there was heavy bombing in Rafah and in El Mwasi, which, for those of you that may not be used to these terms, is the area that Palestinians were told would be safe to go to if they evacuated. And we can't forget the West Bank, where things are escalating rapidly, and yet the media is covering Gaza less and less, and the West Bank even more, where settlers are acting with impunity, or in my personal opinion, were supported by Israeli soldiers. There has been, and I apologize for my pronunciation here, but an area in the West Bank called Turkarem, which for the last 48 hours has been under heavy shelling, in incursions, and at present, the last I heard a few hours ago is that people cannot access medical care and the ambulances are not able to get in. But what Medical Aid for Palestinians has managed to do is release pre-positioned stock into the hospital, so when there is access, those individuals can get the healthcare that they deserve and that they need. Medical Aid for Palestinians has worked there for over 40 years, and we don't leave, we stay. So people ask what they can do, and I wish I could give you a better answer. I honestly tell you daily the things I wish that I could do more of. And so what I'm going to tell you, you probably have heard before, but donate to Medical Aid for Palestinians, to other Palestinian causes, whichever one resonates with you, but that allows us to react now, but also pre-plan for those future scenarios. Follow and share Medical Aid for Palestinians and other Palestinian causes social media. Follow advocacy campaigns and continue to lobby your MPs and your governments. It is having an impact, as painfully slow as it is. From a personal perspective, I have a really strong view about rhetoric. Palestinians didn't just die, they were killed. So when you hear on the media the language used, challenge it and ask people to really evaluate how they talk about it. Israel is not defending its borders because it's never declared its borders. So you also can challenge that rhetoric. But also, as my dear Palestinian friends say to me, don't give up hope. And final thoughts are, so many of you have heard me speak before, so I don't want to bore you, but I've been to Palestine so many times, and it's like my second home, and I've always been welcomed so warmly and ridiculously overfed. But cooking, eating, sharing food, it's a fundamental part of Palestinian culture. These cookalongs don't only raise funds and raise awareness, it doesn't only give comfort to me and other, well, I say other, I'm not Palestinian. It doesn't just give comfort to me and Palestinians with the solidarity, but it also allows us to continue to celebrate and uphold the cultural existence of Palestinians. And that is as absolutely important as any protesting, any donations, any solidarity. So from the bottom of my heart, I thank you very much. And Raheel, you're a hero for all that you're doing. And I know that we're all super grateful. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. As always, rich insight into what's happening on the ground, the major impact that Medicaid for Palestinians is having, and just the importance of understanding, as Sarah put it, the rhetoric and the bits that are conveniently left out for us to understand versus what we're told in the Western media. So, as always, I want to thank you, Sarah. It's not an easy topic to talk upon. God only knows the sites you've seen yourself. And therefore will be fresh in your mind when you're talking to us about what's happening there. The people that you know, these are people with families. They're not just numbers. And as much as we hear the numbers, it's shocking enough to I don't know how I would cope if I was actually in contact with people there on the ground and knew what they were going through. So, our imaginations, I don't think, can stretch that far. So thank you again for the rich insight. I hope you'll continue to be part of the Cookalongs as much as you can moving forwards. I'm delighted to let everyone know we've just gone past the £17,500 mark now whilst we've been online. So thank you so much to everyone for your kind donations. I know, some people can afford more than others. Really, it doesn't matter how much you donate. Any donation will make a huge difference. So a real big thank you again to Sarah. I'm just going to hand back to Sami then. Sami, if we can come back to you to conclude the Cookalong, if that's okay, just let us know where we're up to, any other final steps, please, and then we'll conclude the session. Thank you. Sami, you'll just, yeah, there we go. Yeah, great.
Wanted to thank Sarah again. I mean, Sarah, you are Palestinian. You are Palestinian in your soul. So thank you very much. It's hopefully we get one day to cook together. So it will be fun. Because I wanted to also kind of talk a bit about the subject, because I think my kind of thing that I learned from the last few months is always doubt things, always don't believe everything that the media or you see on social media. Always kind of ask your question, is that the real thing? Can I just actually believe it or not? There are quite a lot of systematic, I call them lying agencies, where they just tell you the same sets of facts about, who's wrong and who's right, and why Palestine are not a state and not, the land doesn't really belong to them. Always questions where the source come from, first of all, and whether this is right or not. I'm lucky. I live in Acton, which is West London, and our MP is really kind of active, and she's supportive of Palestinian. And write to your MP. Keep writing every week if you can, because this is how we make a change. And it doesn't matter whether you go out to demonstrate or cook a Palestinian dish or just donate or just, any activity, it will help the cause. And again, the donation really, even £1 helps. So thank you very much for your donation. It's really helpful. And I'm about to cry, but let's go back to cooking. Because the time frame is really short, I'm just gonna show you how the dish looks now. if we have more questions, we'll kind of hang on until the dish is done. If not, we just leave you to it. Let me just grab the dish out. This been probably not enough, but yeah, it's starting to cook. So, Raheel, how much time do we still have?
Sami, we've got we've got at least another 10 minutes as a minimum. I know that obviously it's getting to that point in the evening where people, if they have made what they need to, or maybe they're having something supplementary with the food, that they might want to go ahead and start eating. But certainly we're okay for another 10 minutes. If you want to say anything else, add anything else, now's the time. Feel free.
Yeah. I mean, let's talk about me being a chef. I mean, I never wanted to be a chef. It's like this wasn't my kind of plan. I grew up in a family that, you know, the term foodie was just kind of spot on. They would just sit and for breakfast and talk about what they're gonna have for lunch and dinner. Seasonality really played a big part of, you know, my upbringing. Seasonality, it's not just something that comes to the season, it's also the connection to the land, to where it came from. Palestine in the 1970s, when I was a kid, was much different than nowadays. It actually had regions, and each region had its specialities of, you know, produce and products. And because of the whole occupation and dividing everything and splitting people and displacing people, we lost that. People used to cook certain dishes, and now everybody cook the same dishes because they are, you know, away from their home, from the land, from the family, from the country even, and you just have to keep it going. Palestinian kitchen is quite diverse, and again, it's really connected to the seasonality, but also local produce and to the farming. Most Palestinians are farmers. We are a really lovely bunch of people. We are very entrepreneurs. We are smart. I'm not saying it because I'm Palestinian, but it's true. I mean, and there are some of the kind of greatest minds in the world from any fields, really. Just pick and just Google it, and it will tell you. But cooking, yeah, I mean, I grew up in a really foodie place, and my family would always talk about it and enjoy it as well, but also part of it, with Sarah kind of dwelt a bit on it. They celebrate food, they celebrate the seasonality, they celebrate eating and talking about it, they celebrate feeding others. I mean, they love having people around and feeding them, and they will just get out of the way to prepare food and making sure that they are comfortable and fed enough. And when you think that, you know, you had enough, they will come up with another tray of homemade sweet or something to just kind of make you, you know, just kind of make sure that you are really, really kind of you're kind of well fed, but also kind of comfortable and happy. And this is something that, you know, the media doesn't really talk about so much. They, you know, you talk about a war and stabbing and killing, and but you know, the culture that I came from, which I'm really, really proud of, is it's a wonderful thing. They're lovely people. They thrive in there. They love life. They love to live. They're very funny. So it really, really breaks my heart to see what's happening at the moment.
Sami, if I can jump in, I would say that humor and that intelligence is like one of the things that if you get the joy of getting to go to Palestine, right, you fall in love, because it's that individualness of it all. And my dear colleague Mahmoud that I spoke of, that's in the north, he says to me, you know, Sarah, when I get my retreats, I am expecting like a high level of retreat now. And he's still, in the face of it all, got humor. And there's me trying not to cry on a call with him. But the overfeeding, it's a big issue. And actually in Gaza, they actually would change the time of dinner because I told them I can't eat that much food at 10:30 p.m.
Yeah.
And so they changed everything for me, which felt so terrible, but at the same time, that love and that honor of it all.
Yeah, but you know, they do it because you know they really want to make people welcome, but also they do it with such a big smile, and there's no like hidden kind of sag or something behind it. It just they are really kind of what they are and what's really they do best by just being you know Palestinians, and yeah, it's kind of sad, but I don't want to kind of turn it into really. You know, we still have it. We're still resilient. We're still entrepreneurs, and we're still doing lots of positive things. And we have the power to change. And even if we do a small change, it's enough to just kind of bring awareness to what's happening. And sadly, I mean, the last few weeks, the monster been revealed. And people can actually see it clearly. But as I said earlier, it's too powerful. Yeah, there are too many, you know, I'm sad to say that, you know, Europe and the US kind of supporting it. So, yeah.
I mean, sorry, just Raheel again. I can't believe it, actually. Just talking about it, it just seems... surreal is the wrong word to use, but it's just unimaginable that this is taking place in front of our eyes. We're all protesting, screaming out, and yet governments and powers that be just are making crazy decisions, and just decisions that really beg a belief. And you know, I think unfortunately this time in history will be looked back upon in years to come, in not too many years to come either, but as long as humanity is around. And they'll just be shocked that this was allowed to happen. Really, it's a real shame, to say the least. But Sami, I wanted to just, if I may, I always try and take an opportunity at some point during the cook along just to sort of say hello to one or two people who are cooking along with us, just to see where they're from, how they've enjoyed it, etc., etc. So if I may just do that very quickly. So I'm just going to come to maybe two or three of you just to say hi. If you want to come off mute and say hello, it'd be great to hear from you. So the first person right in the middle of my screen, Aman, have I pronounced that correctly?
Yes, it's Aman. Yes.
Hi, Aman. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you. Thank you so much for this. This is amazing.
No, thank you for joining. Whereabouts in the world are you?
Oh my goodness. So I'm in Abu Dhabi in the UAE.
Amazing.
But as you can tell from my accent, I'm American, but originally Palestinian and Syrian. So I'm to hear Sami speak. And I have his cookbook, and I just feel like we need to hang on with everything, you know, sort of Palestinian these days. So thank you.
Well said, well said. And this is the first time you joined us, is it? On a cook along?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And it was, I follow Sami on Instagram, so I had seen it, and I just immediately, so I don't know about the previous ones, but now I'll know about the future ones.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we always try and get sort of different people on. I'm sure hopefully we'll be able to get Sami again at some point in the future. He's a busy guy, but if we can, that would be great. But yeah, hopefully once every 3 to 4 weeks, we'll do a cook along. So just look out for it. And how have you enjoyed making the dish today? Have you made the meat version or the vegan version?
I made the meat version, just with the beef, but I love, I mean, again, we come from the similar background, but there's always certain nuances that are just amazing. So I picked up some of those today. So, but the tomato sauce tastes delicious. And shatta, which funny enough, we have a Palestinian friend here who makes it, and sells it. So I never thought of using, so we'll use that for dinner.
This is a gold thing to eat. I mean, it's so delicious. I mean, I put it on everything.
I'm gonna have to get hold of some of that. All the Palestinians vibing about this. I need to get some.
That's there's a recipe. It's really easy to make. So just make it at home and just have a big jar of it. And just the more you leave it, the better the flavor. It gets sweeter and spicier and more acidic, which is really nice.
We could take a 5-minute break, Sami, and go do some shopping and start on that next. Maybe next time. Thank you, Aman. Lovely to have you. And please spread the word for future events and just keep a lookout. That'd be great. The other person I can see in the middle of the screen, Nora, would you like to say hello?
Oh.
There you are. Oh, no, you've gone on mute again. You were off mute and then you've gone on to mute. Just unmute yourself if you would. There you go. Hi.
Sorry, very sensitive keyboard.
That's all right.
Hello, Sami. It's so lovely to hear you talk. And, you know, I just wanted to send my love to you.
Thank you.
We are all heartbroken, absolutely heartbroken. But we are stronger together.
Exactly. Well said. Thank you.
Absolutely. Whereabouts are you, Nora? Where are you based?
I am in Kent and I've been cooking with my son, Otis.
Hey,
Hello.
Otis, how are you?
Palestinian
Thank you.
apron on. And I am half Irish, half Syrian. So
I'm a quarter Syrian.
Otis is a quarter Syrian.
Important quarter, yeah. That's great. And have you cooked together this evening as a family or with Otis?
He was in charge of the meat. I was in charge of the sauce. So it's going to be delicious. My mum and dad are going to come over for dinner and I'm making some tabbouleh to go with it.
Right.
And maybe some hummus.
Nice. So you grew up on Irish and Syrian food.
I grew up in Aleppo, so I grew up mainly with Syrian food. My mother cooks really good Syrian food, who's Irish. So she learned from my nana and from my aunties.
Amazing, amazing. Well, what I was going to say is, first of all, thank you so much for coming and saying hi, and to you and Otis for taking part. Really appreciate you obviously supporting the cause. Thank you so much. Spread the word as far and wide for the next one, please, as well. What I was going to say, Sami, is if you wouldn't mind typing into the chat function your Instagram handle. I'm sure most people on here have got it already. I've just put mine in the group chat as well. The reason I put that in there, it'd be great to see how you present your dishes this evening. So, you know, I'll comment on it. I'm sure, Sami, it'd be great to get some of your commentary on some of the dishes and how they're presented as well. So if you could tag both of us in, and if you are on Instagram, that'd be amazing. I'd love to see how that looks. Great stuff. And then let's say I mentioned right at the beginning, I was going to speak to Dina. And I've not had a chance. So Dina, would you like to come on and say hi to Sami? And yeah, how have you found this evening?
Hi, Sami. Massive respect to you.
Hello.
You are my favourite. Raheel, Sarah, massive respect to you. In our thousands, in our millions, we are all Palestinians.
Yeah.
That is all we have to say. Thank you so much. It's going to make me very tearful. So I have nothing else to say, but thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for joining us, darling.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dina. Thank you so much for taking part. I know you're super busy, so thank you for that. Really appreciate it. So Sami, I guess I just want to say a quick few words before we finish up, and then I'll pass over to you, if I may, just to sort of only be apt for you to kind of conclude proceedings this evening. So just before we finish then, and I'm sure Sami will just give a very quick recap around how to finish that dish as well, of course, and garnishing and everything. But I just want to say a real big thank you, obviously, to Sami, first and foremost, for taking time out your busy schedule to teach us all how to cook what looks like an amazing dish. I'm sure it'll taste brilliant. Thank you to Sarah for updating us as always on what's happening on the ground and where all your donations are going to. You've got the link, you've got our Instagram handles. Stay in touch, keep in touch, spread the word. The next one, I'm not quite sure when it'll be yet. I'm thinking sort of early May. So keep a lookout for that one, and we'll do another one. I don't know who will be part of that yet. Just keep a lookout. But please spread the word as far and wide. Friends, colleagues, family. You know, let's get thousands on these things. The more the merrier. So that's all from me. Just a real big thank you to you all once more. Amazing donations. We passed 17,500. I'm sure we'll get up to 18,000 soon enough. And with that said, I just want to pass over to Sami just to sort of conclude things, if you may, Sami. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The dish is not ready, unfortunately, because of the time, but it's almost there. I can show it to you now. Don't burn my hands, but here you go. Go quickly, and I want to just grab it and show it to you closer. Okay. So the recipe later on, you just have to take the sandwiches, the meat sandwiches out and put them on, arrange them on a serving plate, and then you want to reduce all the juices from it. So you know you just left with just a little bit of it, because these juices are full of flavor, but you want to kind of reduce them slightly. And I always do that. I just dip piece of bread into the kind of the juices. It's the best thing to do. It's just so delicious. And to finish it, I have some coriander leaves. You can chop it, or you can just leave it kind of whole and just kind of scatter them around like that. And if you don't like coriander, you can also use parsley, some basil. So I'm looking for the little basil leaves and just kind of place one on each. And the pine nuts, which kind of scattered around. And a good drizzle of olive oil. Then, as a good Palestinian do. And that's it, it's done. It's ready.
Sami, one of the things I found quite funny when you were cooking is how many people were asking for measurements of spices and tahini and whatnot. And I was like, a Palestinian doesn't measure. They just do what their grandmother told them to do. So I did find it quite funny. And I don't think either Raheel or I actually asked you to say out loud those measurements, because I think we all knew the answer.
Yeah, I mean, saying that also, the recipe really worked perfectly well. Not to burn myself, really well. And you know, if you have the recipe, you just follow it. I don't follow the recipe because I've done it so many times over the years, and also I know how much of everything goes into the meat. It's not just showing off just because I've been doing it for so long. Even, you know, the amount of salt is just, sometimes when I cook a recipe for a book or to an article, I actually add the salt, sometimes add the salt mistakenly, because I know how much it need to go, but I have to kind of sometimes stop myself and put it into teaspoon, or just put it on the side and just kind of start again with the teaspoon. So, but yeah, I mean, this whole kind of Palestinian that's been passed down through generation, mainly women. So you always kind of say that, you know, to be a good housewife or good wife, you need to learn how to be cooking delicious food, and you are taught from an early age that, you know, it's not just about the food, it's also about the culture, what connects us, keeping it alive, our connection to everything, to the existence, to being Palestinian, to our culture, the land. It's really, really important to keep it alive, and food is a wonderful way to do it and keep it alive.
Amazing. Sami, thank you so much again. And what I just want to do, just before we finish up for today, I would just like everyone, before they leave, just to, if you wish to, take yourself off mute, and let's just give Sami a big round of applause, a cheer, a round of applause, and a free Palestine, and then we'll all be good to go for this evening. So, free Palestine.
Well done. That was
Palestine.
fantastic. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Palestine.
Free Palestine.
Free Palestine. Free Palestine. Free Palestine. Free Palestine. Viva Palestina. Viva Palestina.
That's like we're all drunk.
We've got a right mix of chants going on here. So thank you, everyone. Have a great evening. Enjoy your food.
Thank you very much.
And hopefully we'll see you next week.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Sammy.
We are thousands in our millions. We are all Palestinians.
Yes.
Well said.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye to everyone.
Thank you. Good night.
Free Palestine.
Thank you.
Free Palestine. Free Palestine.
Amazing.
We're still here, Raheel. We don't want to go.
I know. It's like this always happens at the end. It's like we should next time. What we'll do is we'll go into a dine along at the end, and we'll just.
We're actually doing that with a couple of people on here. We're having a Zoom to dine